A number of years ago, I dug out an old transistor radio that I've had I've had it all my life. It's been in the family. It was my grandmother's radio. It comes from about 1963. Used to sit on her kitchen table, and she ran that thing all the time just to listen to the radio. Anyway, we looked at it a number of years ago when I kind of got it working, but I didn't do a restoration on it. I figure this one deserves to get a full restoration, so we're going to recap it and see how much better it's going to sound after replacing all the caps. Let's check it out. Several years ago, I looked at this little Sony radio. This is mine. This was my grandmother's radio. I remember it from when I was a kid. She had this thing since it was new. It's a Sony Transistor 6. Goes back to the 1960s. And I looked at this a while back. Kind of got it running, but never finished it up. You see, there was things that were missing, like the battery terminal was snapped off. Never got around to fixing that. But other things that were not done on this was I didn't change any capacitors or anything on it to see if I could make this thing improve the operation of it. So I think maybe we'll do that in this one and get this unit running in ship shape, and maybe put something in here to shore up this and glue it in place or something. I remember back in the day, they used to put a little block of wood in behind here to hold the battery terminal in place. That was what was just done, and it worked. But again, I haven't touched this thing in years, and just after seeing the number of people that watched the other little radio that I worked on, I thought maybe I'll revisit this one and see if any of these caps can improve its reception. Again, I don't even know how it works because I haven't used this thing in a long time. Let's get to see how the circuit board lifts out. There should be another screw. I think over here there's another screw. And the model on this one is the TR6080. It's a super heterodyne 6 transistor radio. I should actually power it up and see how it sounds before I do any work. I'll power it up from my power supply, set to 4.5 volts, as that's what this operates on. And we'll just see what it can pick up before I even start on it.
People like to do the pins and needles here for the next couple of years to see what happens. Break the ball.
Actually works. Not very good.
Pretty skated during the day. That's what we've been talking about, and that as the kind of we should expect to see that those rates will move in lockstep, go towards something more normal. It doesn't mean, however, that rates are going to go back to.
Okay, so we have a benchmark. It works. It's just not working as well as it should. I just got to figure out how to get the chassis out of here. It should lift out just like this. I just need to pull this negative terminal out of here just like that. Now the circuit board should lift out, and of course the speaker is going to be attached to the headphone plug. There is the circuitry, and there's a couple capacitors on here that I'm sure probably it wouldn't hurt to change them. They've even tacked one on the bottom here. Look at that. Oh, that's broken. I guess batteries in this thing that corroded at some point. Look at that. But because they were in the bottom, they didn't get on the circuit board and do any damage. That cap there looks like it's probably past its prime. It almost looks like it's leaking out of the Looks like the base is being pushed out of it. So this is at 10 microfarad. My battery terminal just fell apart. We'll have to fix that. This other tab is broken here as well. This is a 10 microfarad little, probably like a little 6-volt cap. We'll change that one. We're going to change a few of these and see if we can improve it. So first things first, I'm going to change this 10 microfarad cap that's looking pretty long in the tooth. I'm not even going to check it since I happen to have some 10s here. And this will be polarized. That's the negative terminal there. It's marked with a negative. These are not used capacitors. I had put them in a camera for testing, but when it was determined that the camera itself was beyond repair, they were removed. I'm just going to reuse them. The leads have been cut back on them, which is fine. They'll fit in here just quite nicely. Just got to put it across this terminal here. We can look at the other one that I just pulled and see how bad it is. So 10 microfarad, well over 60 years old, and it's measuring, well, it's showing 23 microfarads on the meter. It's probably got a ton of internal DC leakage, and that's why it's showing such a high reading. That's usually the case. When capacitors go bad and they get internal leakage, they will show a higher reading than they should. So we'll look at it on the fluke meter. Negative terminal here, and then we'll check it for resistance. It's showing 35 microfarads, almost 34. Now if I go to resistance, and we just look at the DC resistance, I'm sure that we'll probably see DC leakage in the mega ohm range more than likely, but it'll be there. There we go. So this is turned into a 4.8 mega ohm resistor. You see? 5 meg resistor. It's a 10 microfarad, 16 volt, 5 meg resistor. That's an old Elna cap. I'm sure that some of the other ones will probably also be just as bad on here that we can swap out. There's not a lot on here to change. There's another one here. Got a couple more here. This next one I'll change is, actually I think what I'll do is I'll disconnect the speaker just so that the wires don't break, just to get it out of the way. Okay, so the next one I'll change will be, we'll do this one over here. I'm going to do them all. There's not that many that need to be changed. There's only, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll change the 5 plus the other one that was already changed. But we'll change these ones out here. This is another 10 microfarad right here, and I happen to have another one that the leads have been clipped, and I think it'll fit. So we'll do this one here. This is another 10 microfarad, 6 volt. It's right there. I can use the solder sucker to suck up the solder from this one. I am using the new microphone now, so if it sounds different, that is the reason why. I've got a mic clipped on. Now my camera also is in auto gain, so the next one I shoot I'll put it in manual. But you can hear the background noise coming up on auto. Love the smell of burning rubber wire insulation. This actually has real rubber on it. Okay, that cap there is basically connecting to this wire. That's what it's going to. Another 10 microfarad resistor. This is a 3 volt. Until these old circuit boards just fall right apart. You just have to look at them. And the tray starts to lift. Okay, that's 2 replaced. Got a third one over here. This is another, what is this one? Probably another 10. What is this one? Can we see it? Another 10 microfarad, yeah. So let me dig up another 10. And we'll change out this one next. And then these 2 and that one. And that will do it for this one. Get all the caps replaced, and then I'll work on that cabinet to see if I can maybe fix that battery terminal. I don't need 100 volt ones. This one's are 25 volters will do. Small ones. So the story behind this old radio, this was my grandmother's radio, and she used to listen to it constantly. Like it was never turned off. It should be that one right there, I think. Well, I shouldn't say, I won't say it was never turned off, but whenever I saw it, it was on. She used to listen to the country western station, CKWX, Super Country, and listen for the cash call, and she would write down, they always had a contest running. They called it the cash call. And what they did was they would phone someone. They would just pick someone's name out of the phone book at random and give them a call. And if you knew the amount of the cash call, then you won that cash. That was how it worked. I think this is it here. We'll just melt the solder and see whether the cap moves. No, I guess it's not that one. Where is it going? It's going way over here. I think it's going over to this one here, this big cluster here. Yes, there it is right there. That was it right there. Interesting, the transistor right here is almost bent right over, the leads are almost touching. Anyway, what they would do is they would, so say they would call, negative lead going to ground, obviously. Positive lead is this one here, and the negative lead was this other one that was way over here. Mount it back in the same way that it came out. call people just at random, and if you knew how much the call was, and they upped it by, I don't know, it was probably 5 cents every hour or so, right? Whenever they did it, if they called someone and they didn't know, then it increased, and it would keep increasing until somebody figured out what it was. And it was, quite often it would get up to, $40 or $50 or $60. But you have to remember, this is the 1960s and 1970s, and that was a lot of money back then. And she used to keep this little book, and just all day long she'd listen to the radio and fill out that book. Talk about devotion to try to win $20. But this little radio, as I say, had thousands of hours. And it didn't chew up much power either. The batteries used to run forever on it. I don't remember her changing the batteries that often, because transistors didn't draw a lot of power. These were low power germanium transistors, and they didn't take a lot of power, so this thing would run forever on a set of batteries. This next one here is a 100 microfarad 3 volt. What is this other one over here? They're all Elna caps too, but we'll do this next one over here. 100 microfarad 3 volts. That's going to be right here across this terminal. This high lead content stuff. Like, this is not environmentally friendly solder on this thing. It's probably higher than 40%. Okay, this is 100 microfarad. Negative terminal is that one. Shall we see how much leakage is on? Well, we'll just check this one. We'll check it for capacity and see what this one's looking like. Looks pretty sad. Okay, that's resistance wise. Let's just go to capacity mode here. We'll short it out. And it's measuring way over. It's only 100 microfarads and it's measuring like 300 and so forth. If we go over to resistance and we just short it out and measure it, it's also turned into a resistor. A 1.4 mega ohm resistor, to be exact. I'm thinking that static you hear in the background is probably 2.4 gig interference interfering with the radio link. And this other one is also in the same area. It's right next to the other one. The other one I changed. We'll just get this one out of here. Here. Another 100. This one's a 6 volt. I'll put another 16 in. Negative terminal is obviously that one. I'll put another one, little red 100s at 16 volt. You can see how much bigger they were back in the day when capacitors were quite physically large compared to today. I guess that noise also could just be the AGC on the camera bringing the gain up, and you're just hearing background noise. Again, the next one I'll shoot with this, I'll put it in manual level. And I think I had the denoise feature turned on as well, so that might be part of it as well. And one more over here in the audio section. Where is it plugged in? Gonna try to see where the wires go in. Okay, it's right across here. It's kind of bent over as it is. Yeah, it's right across here. This is it here. This is also another 100. Used the last of my little red caps. This is the last of my 16 volt. Now, I do expect the sensitivity to be a lot better now that I've changed out the bad caps, and the volume will probably be a little louder too. I think that's all of them. Let's just, I'll hook it up and try it first. Well, I guess I got to hook up the speaker. I got to do that first. But I got to get the dial back on straight as well. So I'll reconnect the speaker first of all. I'll give it power, 4.5 volts.
The study that linked violent music to violent behavior. Quote, no one talks about the studies that show that bad music makes bad music violent, but listening to Nickelback makes me want to kill Nickelback. That promo started running on May 5th, 2003, right around when Nickelback was exploding with their Silver Side Up album. It was on its way to selling 10 million copies, and the lead single from the album was How You Remind Me. It was the most song on American radio in the first decade of the 21st century. It was played 1.2 million times.
That's
more
73,
than any other song in that decade. So Nickelback was on its way to becoming pretty ubiquitous when that Comedy Central promo started to run. And Nickelback only got bigger and bigger and bigger. For the other, we have to look at a study that came out of the University of Eastern Finland.
Okay, I'm going to put this back in the cabinet, and then we'll work on fixing the battery clip. All right, I got 3 batteries in it now. I just used a couple of the old capacitors and just soldered one lug onto the terminal just to hold it in place, and wrapped it in tape, and that will hold the batteries in place. Hopefully good enough. for this demo anyway. That's a bit better. All right, let's put the radio back into its case to protect it, because this plastic is going to be so brittle. If you so much as look at it, it'll probably fall apart. But it's a little fake leather case. Okay, let's try it out and see if it works.
Asked Maynard in person to his face what was going on, and he dodged the issue.
It's the miracle.
Bill Knight is at the plate.
लेकिन कई इंसानों ने सब कुछ
And Knight is Ryan Watson no longer in the game. He went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and a soft pop out to short against his thoughts.
It's one of the rare spots.
Yeah, but there still was no.
A lot of them are free to use. And again, the way that they work is you can enter in the ice.
For Friday, a big for Saturday, and a high 22. Over the finish line.
Hamas and Israel are signaling that challenges remain. Hamas called the latest proposal a reversal of previously agreed to and accused the U.S. of reluctantly
Goes pretty loud.
from Israel. There's no immediate U.S. response. Blinken added that for the sake of civilians in Gaza, all parties need to move quick.
This needs to get done, and it needs to. Podcast edition with Alan Cross. Now, as a tool fan,
My dial might be a little bit off because you can adjust it, but it's pretty close.
Because
He was talking about, what he's heard
That's
from
690
others
there.
that he's been.
it might be
That's
a while
730.
yet. The good news is that the band is still together, of course, which in itself is real.
980.
Summer, there are incidents. There's a lot of concern.
1130 should be right about there. It's 1130.
Auto thefts.
1300. Or 1220. 1300. And then there's some Indian stations at like 1550 and 1600. Looks like it's working okay.
With all kinds of music information at ajournalofmusicalthings.com.
Anyway,
or if your thing is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Google+, I am there too. There is just no reason for us to connect. And remember that we do have podcast editions of this.
So that's it. My little radio is now restored. New capacitors throughout it. And I kept a couple of the old ones just to shore up that positive terminal. And maybe a bit of hot glue or something in there to hold it in place. But that will shore up that positive terminal so that the battery pack can remain in place. And will continue to work for years to come. Not that it's going to get much use. It's probably not going to get any use. I'm going to remove the batteries and put it back in storage so that they don't go leaky. But we've now restored an old radio that goes back to, I think, about 1963. If I remember when this one came out. I remember it from the time I was a little kid. It used to sit on the kitchen table and just play one station all day. And my grandmother would listen to this. And that's about the only thing I think she left me. It was, I got this. Well, there's a few other things, but that was one of the things that she wanted me to have. And I've had it now for over 40 years. And I haven't really used it, but it did get a lot of use back when it was a little newer. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one real soon.